Thank you very much, everyone, for making the time. As Rui introduced me, my name is Begi Moyo. I am the director of CAPSI, but I also serve currently as the director of this program. But as I will explain later, we are going to have new people who will then be in charge of the academic programs next year. So I wanted to start by welcoming everyone from wherever you are based. I see familiar names here as well. There are some people who are currently doing our postgraduate diploma that I see on this call. Thank you very much for making the time. So let me tell you a bit about CAPSI. So CAPSI, for some of you who may not be familiar, is a Center on African Philanthropy and Social Investment. It was established as a result of a concerted effort by a number of foundations from across the continent. And these foundations were very much keen on doing several things. The first was promoting African philanthropy, developing a new narrative on African giving, but also on other forms of philanthropy that might include corporate social investment, individual giving, among others. But it also wanted to generate as much as possible data and research and knowledge on African philanthropy and these various forms and expressions. And so a group of foundations came together in 2000, started having conversations that spanned from Nairobi to Brazil, back to Accra. And in 2009, led by Trust Africa, the Southern Africa Trust, the Kenya Community Development Foundation, the African Women's Development Fund, among others, we established what was then called the African Grantmakers Network. And that platform has now been renamed to the Africa Philanthropy Network, not to be confused with the Africa Philanthropy Forum. That's a different institution, but it's part of the members now that we work with. And the idea was really to introduce the practice and promote the practice of philanthropy. Secondly, begin to document as much as possible the various forms of philanthropy. And thirdly, to actually teach philanthropy. And so you will see that in the original documents around setting up the African Grantmakers Network, there was some reference to a chair in African philanthropy. And that chair was then established in some time between 2015 and 2016 through a series of consultative meetings that involved people from the private sector, from the nonprofit sector, from philanthropic organizations, from various academic centers that have been established to teach and research philanthropy from Africa and across the world, as well as from across business schools in Africa. And those meetings led to what we currently have, which is the Center on African Philanthropy, which houses the chair on African philanthropy. And currently what we do at the center, we do at least all those things that I mentioned. We teach, and we do this at two levels. There's the professional level, where we offer training, and these are short courses. Some of you might have attended some of those short courses. So we do offer master classes as well as certificates. And then we also teach the postgraduate diploma in African philanthropy and resource mobilization, and then the master's degree that we are going to talk about now. We also have students who have joined us to study by research. So we have students who are doing their masters by research and students who are doing PhD by research. So it's a combination, and I will talk about the articulation model later on. We also do research precisely because we want to generate as much information as we can, which is Afrocentric, but also relevant and resonates with what you are doing in your different constituencies. As far back as 15, 20 years back, a lot of the literature on African philanthropy, rather let me say literature on philanthropy, was generated by scholars who came from the North or from the West, and there was very little written on African philanthropy. So if you wanted to teach on African philanthropy, you needed to depend exclusively on literature that has been developed by Western scholars. Part of our PhD program is to produce a new cohort of experts in the field that will then go on to also establish their own programs in their universities or also become academic practitioners within the center. As we speak right now, one of our staff members completed a PhD in philanthropy, and she has since been appointed as a lecturer in the field of philanthropy. So that's one of the things that we are trying to do, to introduce these modules, produce a new cohort of experts so that they can take over some of these sessions. So that's really about us, the CAPSI. We are located at the business school. We are governed by university rules, so there's nothing that we do that is outside the university precincts and outside the university standing orders, rules, and norms. So today we are meeting here to talk a bit about the program that we want to offer next year. So I can ask it to whoever is moving the slides to move to the next slide for me. So I want to start by saying the process of developing this master's program was a long process. It involved us doing some feasibility studies. It involved us doing some market survey from students, the private sector, philanthropic organizations, business schools, and other centers, just to establish what is it that people would want to study. And what we got from those studies was what we condensed into the following modules. And then after we had done that, we then had to go through a formal accreditation process. And this process involves us developing internally most of these modules, getting them approved by various structures. And once they were approved by various structures, they were to be approved by Senate. And then after Senate, we had then to submit them to the Ministry of Higher Education and Training. And then once approved by the ministry, we had to send it to the Council on Higher Education and SAQA. So as we speak, we actually got accredited last year in December. So this is a fully accredited program. It's not going to be a Master of Management in the field of, this is a Master of Management in African Philanthropy. It's a standalone, fully accredited and approved program. So what are we hoping to do with this program? So you will see that it's structured in the following manner. There are core modules, and these you have to take if you do enroll on this program. So the first one will be African Gifting and Philanthropy. Those of you who have done the diploma and some of the short courses, we did a module on Introduction to African Philanthropy. But here it's going to be more detailed. We're going to be focusing on different landscapes, looking at different forms of philanthropy, looking at the nuance, looking at the theories, looking at the practice, but also distinguishing it from other forms of philanthropy. So this is a more detailed module compared to the one that is an introduction to philanthropy, which is in the short courses and the diploma. But we are also, one of the things that came out of the consultations was that a lot of people who are working in philanthropic institutions, in foundations, in the corporate world, managing foundations as well, including those that are in the non-profit organizations, your so-called NGOs. They were interested in how philanthropy is organized and how philanthropy can be managed. And because this is a Master of Management, we are going to be going deeper into principles of management and how different foundations and different forms of institutions organize themselves and manage themselves. And so here there are issues of leadership, there are issues of strategy, there are issues of risk management, stakeholder management, there are issues of finances as well. And so it's really going to be a detailed look into how philanthropy is managed and organized in Africa. Of course, we'll draw from other regions as well for international comparison, so that we do get the best of the two worlds. The third module that is compulsory is around resourcing African gifting and philanthropy. This is different from the first one. The first one is really looking at different forms, different expressions, different manifestations. This one is really about where are the resources that could propel development in the continent. Where do we find them? How do they look like? What is their scope? And those of you who are currently enrolled in the diploma, you are currently studying resource mobilization. And so this is really more to do about that, but taking a very special look at the African forms of resources. What different kinds do they take? And some of you are leading foundations, some of you program officers, you are currently managing those resources. And the issue here is, how do we resource African gifting and development? Then the other module that we wanted to really make sure that our students take is research methods. We included research methods here because our experience at the PhD level is that there is a lot of candidates who are still struggling with conducting research. And because this program is structured partly as a credit-based, but also there's a report to it. So that means you are expected to write a research report. And that report will require you to understand and grasp the various principles of research methods. Here we're talking of issues that include research design. We're talking about research philosophy. We're talking about research approach, or what we call methodology. And here on methodology, as you know, there will be different forms. There will be the qualitative, the quantitative, the mixed methods, and all of those can be utilized in undertaking your research. If you're doing qualitative research, you have to also go deeper into that to understand whether you are going to be using an inductive approach or you're going to be using a deductive approach, and what form of analysis are you going to be using in terms of your tools of analysis. But if you're doing quantitative, again, there are various approaches and methods that you are going to have to use. It could be regression analysis, you could be using your panel data, and so forth and so on. But there's the mixed methods, which is really a combination of the qualitative and the quantitative. And so you will go deeper into that, including the methods. And the methods here, we are talking about the techniques that you'll be using to collect your data, as well as to interpret and analyze your data. And so this is an important module for us, because for those of you that would then want to go on to a PhD, this will actually make it easier for you to then develop your chapter 3 for your PhD proposal. So these four are core. So if you do take or register, you will be expected to actually do these 4 modules. And then we also want you to choose 3 electives from the 2, 4, 6, 8 that are there. So you can choose any 3 of those. And here, there's first one, which is advising private wealth. I mean, there's a growing phenomenon of high net worth individuals, elite families that are setting up their own foundations, or they are setting up their own instruments on how they want to give back to society. And we are seeing a lot of banks now introducing units that deal with private wealth. But there are also standalone advisory firms that help a lot of these families, a lot of these individuals, to structure their giving back to society. So this module will really be looking at how to advise the elite, those that hold private wealth, but they want to give it back to society. We will here learn also from international practice, where the advisory to private wealth has been in practice for a very, very long time. So one of our lecturers for this module is going to be somebody who has been leading donor-advised funds for quite some time, and so would want to learn from that. But we do have a couple of advisory firms here in the country and in some countries across the continent. So it's a new field, but we want to really make sure that those that take this module benefit from it. And then there's obviously the corporate social investment or responsibility, as some people would want to call it. This is really something that a lot of companies, when we were talking to them, said they would want to have it as a module that can be offered not only to those that are working in their corporate foundations, but also for those that are beneficiaries, so that they understand how the corporate social investment framework works in different countries. And then the third one is community philanthropy. Here we're really looking at what happens at community level in our different countries. As you would understand, we always talk about vertical philanthropy and horizontal philanthropy. By horizontal philanthropy, we're really talking about solidarity mechanisms. We're talking about exchanges that happen from one person to the other, from community to the other, mobilized pools of funding, but also other sources of philanthropy, which are not necessarily money. And in our different contexts in the different regions of the continent, we have different expressions of this. If you're in East Africa, you will probably be thinking about Harambe. If you are here in South Africa, you might be thinking about Stokvels and so forth and so on. So we want to study the landscape across the continent and understand the different forms of community gifting. But there's also something that was established in 1914 in the US called community foundations. But these community foundations have been in many ways transported to different parts of the world. So we actually do have a sizable number of community foundations in Africa. The Foundation for Community Development in Mozambique is one of them. It was established by a group of people there led by Graça Machel. You have something called the Community Foundation of the Western Region of Zimbabwe, which was established by a group called ORAP, and it was dependent mainly on $1 per family, and it grew into a big foundation that communities utilize to respond to their challenges. I mentioned earlier the Kenya Community Development Foundation, and there are several of them. Some of them are based on religious beliefs, others are based on community values, others are just set up by a few individuals who then link them to their communities. Again, it's a particular form of a foundation which is different from your operating foundations, your family foundations, among others. And so this will be a specific module that deals with that. So one of the people that will be teaching this module currently runs something called the Global Community Foundations. I'll get the name properly. The Global Fund for Community Foundations. She already teaches a module at a masterclass level. The other module is on sustainable development goals. And here, some of you would know that for a long time, philanthropy was not really in the policy corridors. It wasn't considered as part and parcel of thinking about the Millennium Development Goals. But when it came to the Sustainable Development Goals, for the first time, philanthropy was invited into the corridors of power, into policy making. And some of you might have participated in the lead up to the adoption of the SDGs would have noted that in Ethiopia, at the conference for the financing for development, philanthropy played a huge role in terms of putting in place some of the thematic areas that needed to be considered across all the 17 goals. But at the adoption of the goals at the United General Assembly, we had an opportunity to actually speak on goal number 16 and talk about how philanthropy could be utilized across all the goals. And so we want to then have an opportunity to teach about how philanthropy is instrumental in the implementation of the SDGs. In various countries right now, as we speak, we do have platforms that are called the philanthropy SDG platforms. You do have one in Kenya, one in Ghana. You have another, I think, in Zambia. There might be others in other countries that are being thought about. So that will be something that we'll be hoping to teach, to make sure that philanthropy plays a transformative and developmental role in the achievement of sustainable goals. But we also know that most people give because of religious belief. Those who are Christians, they would be motivated by some Christian values. Those who are, from the Islam faith, they'll be also driven by some of the values there. So we know that, they are either mandatory ways of giving, or you actually can give out of your own volition, but the religion that you subscribe to pushes you to actually do good. And so we want to see the interface between religion and belief. And this is important, especially given the world in which we live in and some of the pandemics that are facing us. A lot of people are turning to religion, but that religion also pushes them and helps them to actually give, or it actually frames their giving. And then the last one is the public policy, law, and regulation. Philanthropy has a way in which it impacts on public policy. High net worth individuals like your Bill Gates, I'm mentioning Bill Gates because he has had a huge impact on areas of health, the area of education, especially in the United States, but here in Africa, it's more in the area of health. And so most policies on health are either influenced, financed, or supported by philanthropy, either through research, through funding, among others. But philanthropy is also regulated. It's also regulated in different countries. It's regulated, and we want to study how philanthropy is regulated. How does it align with different policies in different countries? A couple of years back, I was invited to do a philanthropy policy for the government of Rwanda. Yes. And upon getting to Rwanda, I quickly noticed that the country had already in place what they called local initiatives, and those local initiatives were philanthropic practices. And it soon dawned on us that if we were to develop a policy for the government, it has to be anchored on those local initiatives. And then, only then, can people identify the role that philanthropy plays. So here we'll be looking at law, we'll be looking at regulation, but we'll also be looking at policies and how they impact on philanthropy and how philanthropy impacts on them. So we can move to the next slide. I see there's some questions. I'll come back to them. So in terms of requirements to apply, we obviously want, you have to qualify from an academic point of view. So you need to have a 4-year degree, postgraduate diploma in management or any related discipline. And this should be at the National Qualifications Framework level 8 with a good academic record. So if you are applying from outside South Africa, you didn't start in South Africa, you will be required to send your documents to SAQA so that they can convert them to the South African level. And so that's a process that I think will take a bit of time. So if you plan to apply, make sure that you also do that, because you will need to convert your degree into the level 8 or an equivalent, but you have to apply through SAQA. The second requirement is that you should have some competence in maths and English, and this is equivalent to the South African national certificate level. And here, the reason why we say maths and English is because we teach in English, we don't teach in another language. But maths, because some of the modules would definitely require you to do some computations. This is not really a deal breaker, but we really want to encourage those that apply to at least have some competence in maths. In any case, this is philanthropy. It's about money. I see Nikiwe says maths. No, It's not a deal breaker, Nikiwe, so you can still be accepted as long as you are going to find time to actually do some of the computations, because you will be required in some of the modules. And then we also need a minimum of 3 years appropriate work experience. But if you need exemption from this requirement, a motivation must accompany your application. I think number 4, they say you need to attend an interview with WPS. I don't think this is always the case, but I think, if it does get to be implemented, we'll then go through that. But normally, so far, I'm not so sure whether this will actually happen, but it's included as part of the standard entry requirements. And then you may also be required to complete some admissions test at your own cost. But there's a specific unit that deals with applications, and so they will let you know the moment you start making your applications if they need anything further from you. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so this is when we developed the program, we wanted to offer two sets of format. The first was a full-time approach, and the second was part-time. But for this cohort, we want to start with full-time so that we can get everything, the systems in place, and then we can come back to the part-time probably in another cohort. But for this intake, is going to be a 1-year program starting in July. The applications will open on the 1st of January 2022. So be on the lookout for that. Once the applications are open, we'll circulate all the information to all of you who are already on this database, and you'll be able to apply online. The fees, as you see, they are currently approved by council at 124,350 rands. But this is subject to review in January 2022. But for now, the fees have been approved as what you see there. I've already said it's full-time. This is going to be, the classes are going to be offered only in the evenings during the week so that we can also accommodate people who are working. In fact, that's the trend mostly in most business schools, to offer classes in the evenings. Those of you who are doing the postgraduate diploma, we are offering on Saturdays, but because this is more intensive, we're going to be doing it during the week in the evenings. So, but a timetable will be developed, and that timetable will be shared, once we start the admissions. Let's move to the next slide. So I did mention this, that we currently are offering certificates at level 6, level 7, and level 8, and then the diploma. So for those who want to do the diploma, and this is not really about this group, you can actually be exempted from some modules if you do level 8. You can be exempted from some modules if you then want to go to do a diploma. And for those that are going into the master's program, but they are currently doing the diploma, we did explain to them that there are some modules that they will be exempted if they do apply to go to the master's program. I don't have them at hand, but I think that information was shared with those who are already doing the diploma now. So most of you might not really benefit from this. I only see a couple of those who are doing the diploma already. So that means we'll just use the entry requirements that we spoke about. And then you will have to do all the 4 modules and the 3 electives and undergo the full assessment. Okay, Peggy, I see you have said the applications will be in February. We just got confirmation from SENC. Melusi did explain that it's actually going to open on the 1st of January for us. So the February date has changed. We want to start as early as possible. So it will be the 1st of Jan. Next slide. Okay, so this is the end of the short information that I wanted to give to you. So in terms of inquiries, at the center, we do have 2 colleagues that would assist with you. But like I said, the application process is handled by SENC, which is a different unit from us as CAPSI. We develop the modules, we facilitate the teaching, but the applications are handled elsewhere differently. But we want to be involved. So if you really are struggling, you want some information, you can reach out to the following two colleagues. Kiratilium Hosi, who is now a lecturer at CAPSI. She won't be available until end of November. So if you want to send something for now, send to E2, who is on this call. But after November, you can also reach out to Kiratilio or any of the colleagues at the center. They will be able to assist you with any queries that you might have. So I think I will end here. I think there were some questions, Ru. I don't know if you want me to.
Yes, there were some questions, Prof. So I'm just wondering whether we address those questions now and then we'll introduce Jacob. I think maybe it could work better that way.
Sure.
What you think?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me help you with some of the questions, and I just want to say thank you very much for that thorough overview of the program. Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe I should consider second masters. It's really a fascinating field, but I'm not sure if I have the stamina. But thank you very much for that overview, Prof. So some of the questions that are coming in, and maybe let me start with some of the easy ones in my view. The attendance, I've seen a number of questions that are speaking to attendance. I know you said classes will be in the evening, but what about somebody who's out of the country? I saw Sharon asked to say, so will we be accepting students from outside South Africa?
Yeah, so we are Pan-African, so our students come from all over the world. It's not just even Africa. If you are in Europe, you are in the States, you're in Asia, and you are able to attend, you will attend. So I think the question is even deeper than that. Maybe you are asking, is this going to be contact class, or in other ways, is it going to be in person, or this is going to be online? The university currently, and this program was approved to be a contact program. In other words, we've got to be in class in person. But of course, because of COVID, we have had to adopt hybrid formats, including fully online. But the school right now is actually working on getting everyone back to campus next year. So currently, I think we should be working with the understanding that this is going to require people to be in South Africa, especially those that want to do this full time. If anything changes, then I think we'll communicate. But my understanding from the school now is that they want everyone to be they want classes to go back to in person. So as it used to happen, you would need to get, if you're outside South Africa, you would need to get a student visa or a student permit. And then you, through the block release that we are going to utilize, you could come during those times when the classes are offered.
Okay, so Eva's then asked a question. So if virtual learning will also be possible?
So like I said, if things change and the situation continues, we'll probably adopt a hybrid where some people could be in class and others could join online. And I think this is not really such a big deal for me, because I think if we have a sizable number in class, we can still have people joining online. But I think in terms of your registration and in terms of your permit, you've got to prove that you are actually allowed to study as an in-person student. It doesn't matter how you end up joining. I think that's the technique that we will need to look into.
Okay. No, I hear you.
We shouldn't be. My view is that we shouldn't stop people from joining online if we are able to do that. In any case, what COVID has taught us is to be innovative and creative. But I think there are still some systems that the university would want us to follow. So one of them is you need to have a student permit, because currently you could study online. I mean, with most of our modules from anywhere, and the permit wouldn't be such a big deal because you could register and all that because of COVID. But if we are going back to full contact classes, then I think your joining in line is now something that you work out with the program director or with the lecturer.
Okay, all right. Burning question, Prof, on funding possibilities. Do we have any funding or scholarships available? And linked to that, there was also a question about payment plans. Do we offer payment plans?
I don't know if there's anyone from the fees office. We discussed this with Begin Fundo. I don't know if he wants to address this, but I know that there are different scholarships that are available, offered by the university. One of them is the Merit Award that most people actually end up getting. I don't know whether it applies to coursework, but I think you could look into that. So my understanding from Beg is that he's going to circulate information on funding sources and possibilities.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do, Prof. And I see Melusi has got his hand up. Mel, do you want to just step in there and assist us on that one? Thanks, Mel.
I think he's on mute.
Okay.
No, thanks, Prof. Moyo. So, I mean, in principle, I think you've touched on it, Prof. Moyo, in that there are some funding opportunities in the university, and this would really then be the main university. And I think one of the more prominent ones that you've mentioned would be then the PG Merit Award. And what I'll try to do, I'll just maybe find the link that I can then send to Peggy, and it can circulate to the colleagues in the room. But generally, those kind of funding, I mean, they are sort of fully managed, by central Wits. And then in terms of other finance-related matters, I mean, I think if a candidate is able to just get the foot in the door in the following sense, if you are able to at least register, where generally registration is dependent on an upfront payment. So if you are not able to, one, have the upfront payment, which is generally around, say 9,340, etc. The university, if there's no historic debt, they can actually, allow a candidate to get cleared for registration in the absence of that upfront payment, but subject to the candidate not having any historic debt with the university. So that's one way of getting your foot in. And then obviously then there are those situations then where the candidate then is being sponsored by somebody else. So again, there, in the form of just a confirmation letter, the university will allow you to register. And in both instances, either by waiving the first fee or by producing a sponsorship letter, at some point then, the fees then become due, but at least you would have been able to register in the absence of paying, say, 15,000 or 9,000 upfront. So at least that's an opportunity to get going in terms of starting the program. Thanks.
Thanks, Mel. I see there are so many Begin Fundo. I even see my friend Sean here is registered as Begin Fundo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but also, I mean, at CAPSI, we do give some support, but the support currently is mainly to PhDs and selected master students by research. So, but it's also dependent on funding. If we do have funding in place, then we will be able to assist, but we will not be able to assist the tuition. We will be able to assist with the research reports. So our funding is mainly to assist with research, so research costs and things like that. So it will still require you to still get tuition, and that I think that also responds to one of the questions: is Merit Award full scholarship? My understanding of the Merit Award is that it's just tuition, and not much. If you want to do research, you will still need more. I don't think it's adequate to even cover accommodation. I might be wrong, but I don't think it's that adequate to cover everything. But I think the colleagues are going to share the links to various sources of funding.
Yes, thanks, Prof. We'll definitely do that. There was a question on what is appropriate work experience. I think we mentioned it as part of our admission criteria. Yeah,
I mean, the appropriate work experience, I mean, it says minimum 3 years, but if you don't have that, then you can put a motivation later. I think the other part of that is, when we say appropriate, are we specific to sectors that you should be working in? So my sense is the majority of people who would want to do this module work either in the corporate sector, mainly with corporate social responsibility, or with their foundations, or with shared value initiatives, or sustainability questions or reporting. Some people might be working in the nonprofit sector, and those that are working in the nonprofit sector, it could be NGOs, it could be social movements, it could be any of those sectors that are doing work for public good. And part of your interest is really to transform the society, but it's also to raise resources to actually do that. Some of the people might be working as volunteers, some might be working in philanthropic organizations, grant-making institutions. I see somebody says they work at Trust Africa. So Trust Africa will be one key institution in terms of, its work on philanthropy. So those will be probably the sector that the majority of people will come from. But philanthropy is a multidisciplinary subject. And so we really don't think that, you should be denied entrance into this program if you are not in those sectors that I mentioned. We do have people who are working for the city of Johannesburg, for example, who are doing the diploma. In one of my classes, I had a medical doctor. You also have other people that are from different disciplines, but they want to do good. They want to know how to do this either as part of their profession or as part of their giving back to society. So from a multidisciplinary perspective, we are able to accept people as long as you are able to deal with issues of academic rigor, research, analytical thinking, writing, which is one of the biggest requirements. So I think that's what I'm trying to say, that don't feel limited because of the sector in which you are located to apply. This is a multidisciplinary program.
Okay. All right, thank you, Prof. I'm looking at my watch and I'm getting very nervous because I know we've got Jacob that's on the call, and we just wanted our prospective students just to, for him to say hello and maybe just to tell them what module he will be covering and maybe just a bit of information. So can we go to Jacob and maybe give Jacob a few minutes and then we'll cover the remaining questions? Prof, are you happy with that approach?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll come back to some of the questions around vaccination and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Jacob, if you're in the room, welcome. We haven't met. We're looking forward to seeing you. You're on our program just to talk about the module that you'll be teaching. So over to you. If one of our team members could please unmute Jacob. I'm not.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Jacob Mati, as Rutendo and Becky have alluded to, and I'm joining CAPSI. Not necessarily new in CAPSI, but from 2022 I'll be full time. And I'm scheduled to be teaching the module on African gifting and philanthropy. There will probably be other electives that I get involved in, besides supervising research projects and other things. But I come from a background which is interesting in regards to not having, quote unquote, formal training in philanthropy. Started off as a practitioner in the nonprofit sector, but one that to some extent, immediately after my bachelor's degree, I found myself doing research on the nonprofit organizations, including philanthropy in Kenya, where I was born and brought up, and I did my undergraduate training. And from that, the trajectory had been for quite a while, over 10 years to be precise, taking me through Kenya, Ethiopia, India, and then finally in South Africa, working in the sector. And when I got back into my postgraduate work, I continued being interested in these areas. So I continued researching the nonprofit sector, locally, internationally, and then got more and more involved in things that we came to term as African philanthropy over the years. Professor Becky, Professor Fowler, and others, we've worked together in the sector in some of the conceptualizations that you will be expecting in the course that I'll be teaching. And I'm looking forward to exciting moments in the sense that, yes, we are teaching, but at the same time, this is also an opportunity to create and systematize knowledge in these particular areas. So as much as we are teaching, we are also learning quite a lot in the process. And I think for me, having been affiliated to the center for quite a while as an associate, it gives me a lot of pleasure to be part of this initiative that tries to understand this particular phenomenon from an African lens, which I've tried to, probably very minute so far, but the opportunity to deepen that particular understanding, to expand that particular understanding I think is what this course, the center is about, and definitely the different modules that we will be teaching. So I look forward to being in my class and definitely in the program come January 2022. I
Awesome.
think I can leave it at that for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. Any chance we could see your face? I have
tried to show video, but or start video, but it's not allowing me to.
You had an issue. Okay.
So probably someone allowed me.
Okay. The more reason for our students to join so that they can see you as well, right? Thank you so much for just sharing a teaser of what you'll be teaching. It sounds really interesting. So thank you very much. Prof, can we get back to our questions? I see our time is fast running out, but let's see if we can address some of the questions that were raised.
Okay, great. So let me start with, I think it was Innocent. Will the recording be shared? And I think there are other several people. Yes, the recording will be shared. I think Itu and Tim will share the recording with everyone. Including those that might have missed the first part of the presentation. Again, there's a question around when does the program start? So we say it starts in July 2022. However, the application is open on the 1st of January 2022. Yeah. So that I think, the application is the 1st of Jan, but the actual teaching starts in July. Is there recognition of prior learning? Yes, there is, but as you know, there's just, it's 10% of the intake that qualifies for recognition of prior learning. And the reason here is that there are some people who have been working in this area for a long period, and they may not have an academic qualification, but they actually have a lot of experience. So the university does have a policy on recognition of prior learning. But like I said, it's just a portion of the intake. So we are only allowed to take 10% of the intake. There's still another question on the cost. You saw it's about 124,000 rands. But like I said, it's what has been approved by council, is subject to review in the early Jan next year. The timetable will be circulated and developed. Like I said, this will be happening on weekdays in the evenings, and it's going to be a block release. Somebody asked, what is the relationship between CAPSI and ANOVA? So I don't know if everyone knows what ANOVA is, but ANOVA is an association research on the nonprofit and voluntary action, which is an American-based group that draws together scholars and researchers in the area of philanthropy, voluntarism, civil society, among others. And there's another related institution called ISTR, which is the International Society for Third Sector Research. Both of them run journals, some of the leading journals in this area. ISTR's journal is called Voluntas, and the ANOVA journal is called the Non-Profit Quarterly Review. We are not part of ANOVA, but we are a member of ANOVA. So, if we are a member of ANOVA, we're also a member of ISTR. So that means we actually have access to their journals in a historical manner. Current editions is also historical editions. We also attend most of their annual conferences where we actually present our research findings, our papers there, and we normally take some of our students to those platforms. So we work very, very closely with them. We will also, as CAPSI, and this has nothing to do with the master's program, as CAPSI, we will be hosting the fellowship program of the Africa version of ANOVA, which is a ROXA, starting early next year. So there is a relationship, but we are not a structure of ANOVA. We are a member of ANOVA. Will we be taking students from other countries? Yes, I did say we will, but like I said, you will need to go through the formal process of registration, converting your certificate, and whether you are going to be here in person, that will depend on the teaching mechanism, like I said, we will definitely integrate technology. So we will have some people on site, and those that cannot be, we'll work out the way to have people join online. We can't run away from technology these days. We just have to do that. Combination of, so that I've just said that it will be probably more in person, but then we'll have people that will join online. I think Melus responded that this is an NQF 9. So that's that. I did not get to the other questions, Ru. I don't know if you have some that you can see for me to respond to. So when are the application forms available? So again, I said the application is going to open on the 1st of Jan. What is the duration? Is 1 year. There's something about, please don't forget to clearly consider gender perspectives as basic and prerequisite of these philanthropy programs. I'm assuming you are saying as part of the content, as part of the teaching content. Yeah, so different lecturers will actually have a different take on different nuances, and I'm sure gender is going to be one of them, and gender cuts across all the different modules that we presented. So we will encourage lecturers to actually do that. So I just want to correct that applications will open in Jan, not in February.
Thank you.
Then will you be required to do evaluations for papers? I'm assuming you are saying will you need to convert your certificate if you graduated from another university other than in South Africa? Yes, I did explain that you need to go through SAQA to actually do that. There was something about vaccinations. I think if I can take that one very quickly. So currently the university is discussing a policy that might see mandatory vaccinations for students and staff and lecturers. It's not yet approved, it's still under discussion, but the policy currently also offers exceptions where if you don't want to vaccinate for religious or constitutional reasons, you can still come into the university, but you will have to undergo particular regime of I would say screening, but you will also be limited to certain public spaces. So there will be some public spaces that you will not be allowed in. So that policy is still under discussion. It's not yet finalized, but I think we should work with the assumption that it might be approved, that there's mandatory, but if you can't, there will be a committee that you might have to appeal to, or secondly, you have to undergo some screening, some testing, and also you will be limited to some public spaces that you may not be able to attend.
Thank you, Prof. I think you've answered most of the questions. Sharon then asked a question about converting qualifications that are non-South African. So Melusi has just shared a link to the South African Qualifications Authority website. Sharon, if you could check on that, it will guide you on how your qualifications that you have that are non-South African will be evaluated. Okay. I'm glad you saw that, Sharon. Thank you very much. Okay, Prof, I just wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned that the duration of the master's is a year. Is that inclusive of the research report? Or is 1 year is for the coursework? Please, can you clarify that?
I think it's inclusive of the research report. So just to explain, the research report is 90 credits and the modules are also, is it 90? Yeah, 90 credits as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. No, thank you, Prof. I think that there was a question on credits. So if there are no other questions, and I'm really watching the time perspective class of next year, where it said we'll finish at 6 o'clock. But here is what I'm going to say. The recording will definitely be shared. And then, so please feel free to get in touch. Not even feel free, we will send you the recording, or you can get in touch with our Bekimfundo Matandela, the correct Bekimfundo Matandela. I know we had several people who had that name on this call, and that was unfortunate. The professor mentioned that you can get in touch with some of our colleagues from CAPSI, but here's an open invitation. Please feel free to get in touch with either myself as well. I will post my email address as well as Bekimfundo's email address in the chat, so we can give you more information, answer as many questions as we possibly can, just to help you as you prepare for the 1st of July 2020, 1st of January 2022, as when applications open. I think it will be a great New Year resolution if people still work with New Year resolutions to start the application process. I see Melusi's got his hand up. Let me just give him an opportunity to step in and say something. Melusi?
Thanks, Rutendo. So I think mine was just really again a parting shot, which was some advice from an admissions perspective, where I just wanted to make the point that if you would be lodging an application, I really suggest and advise that please get all the necessary documentation lined up. I would even dare say even prior to you lodging your application, so that by the time that you lodge it and you have an active application, you are almost readily able to upload your certified copies of your qualifications, academic transcripts. You've already been in touch with SAQA, letters of motivation if they are required. And I say this because you'd find that in the main, some applicants lodge an application, you have an active application, but then it takes months, for somebody then to upload the relevant documentation. So from a diligence perspective, I'd really, encourage all candidates to say, get those certificates off the walls, have them certified. If, you left your degree certificate, with your ex-wife or something, please go get it certified and those sort of things, so that by the time that you lodge an application, you have all the documents lined up. And then this allows Prof. Moyo and the selection committee to then give quick turnaround times, for applications that you would have, put in place. So it was just more advice, more than anything. Thanks, Drew, and thanks, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Lucy. That advice is absolutely crucial, because we know from experience that your application will be considered incomplete if there is one document that is missing from the checklist. So Melusi raises a very important point there in terms of getting all your documentation ready for when you start the application process. Yeah. Okay, I see people are starting to leave, but they're saying excellent initiative. Thank you, Jane. I hope you also apply for next for the program next year. Prof, is there anything else you'd like to say in closing?
No, so I thought I saw Professor Alan Fowler.
I saw his name as well when we started. Okay, yes. I wonder if he's still here. Let me just check.
Yeah, I just wanted him to, because so he's one of the founders of this whole initiative, and some of you would know and have come across his writings, and so he actually led the development of this master's program. He might have dropped, but he will also be teaching some of the modules. So I wanted him to say a few words. If he's not here, that's fine. This is not the last information session. We'll have another one. So we'll introduce more lecturers going further. But I also wanted to also mention, Jacob mentioned in passing, but Jacob is joining us as of Jan next year as an associate professor, but also the deputy director of CAPSI. So I'm happy that we are actually growing. I also mentioned that one of our staff members, Kiratile Mokotsi, has also been appointed a lecturer, and we are getting some former students to come in and do postdocs. So from a research perspective, you will also interface with some of our postdocs. So thank you very much, everyone, for making the time. We will continually be in touch with information as it comes out. Any changes that we might come across, we will let you know. But the team will also share some of the data in terms of the new information sessions that we are going to hold going forward. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your evening. For those who are in the evening zone and those who are in the morning zone, have a great day ahead. And those in the afternoon, have a great afternoon. Thank you, Rotendo.
Thank you so much, Prof. We appreciate it. And to our prospective class of next year, we look forward to hearing from you. And as we said, please feel free to email us. We're here to help you with the application process and just provide you with more information so you make an informed decision. So thank you once again for joining. To my colleagues who are on this call, we appreciate your support. Thank you very much, everybody. Keep well. Au revoir. Take care. Goodbye. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.